Hello and welcome. I'm Jessica Giannino, your state representative. Welcome to View from the Hill. Today I'm joined with my office and my aide, Chris DeFilippis, and we're excited to talk to you a little bit about life on Beacon Hill. First, I want to introduce you to someone who you may have seen in the last year. He started with my office August of last year. My aide, Chris.
How you guys doing?
So I want to take this opportunity for the people that haven't got to meet Chris yet to get to know a little bit about us and what we do in the office and what day-to-day life is like in our role as state representative and a legislative aide. So first, I think the best way to do that is for you to get to know us. You've had the opportunity to know me for the last 10 years, but I'm excited to introduce Chris to the community in a more intimate way like this. So Chris, thank you for joining us today and for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Chris, tell us a little bit about your background and kind of where you grew up and where you went to school and the path that brought you here.
I'm from Saugus, your Saugus side of the district. Born and raised there. Went through Saugus Public Schools. From that point, went to Merrimack College, and I studied finance there. A little bit of politics at the start, but went into finance for kind of the money side of things. Hated finance. So wound up coming out still interested in politics, so I was looking for a lot of state roles or sort of anything local within the town of Saugus. And I wound up stumbling across this job.
Well, we're happy that you did.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, it's really great to have that balance in the office with your financial background and my major in English. We have good balance for each other because, as we all know, math is not my strong suit. So it's great to have that, especially during budget time.
Yeah.
So far, you've been in this role now since August.
Yep.
Which it was a different time because you started in the middle of the pandemic. So when you started with my office, the State House was still closed to the public and it was a fully remote position. So can you tell myself and the audience a little bit about what it's been like for you to transition into the role now that the State House is open?
Yeah, so I mean, originally, job before this, it was in person every single day. So doing stonework was whatever, majoritively I'd be traveling to New Hampshire, doing work in Saugus and Revere. And I really liked that. It gave me some sort of schedule and some sort of structure. So I was a little bit on the fence when I found out it was fully remote because I didn't know if it was gonna, I don't know. I liked having the structure of having to wake up every morning for certain times. But no, when we started the remote, it was still more than what I thought it would be. So I was still learning a lot every single day, being being exposed to different hearings and briefings for different committees and caucuses, and just sort of learning the roles. So it was more hands-on than I actually thought it was going to be. But no, I really enjoyed it. And then transitioning now into fully in person, I would say.
It's different, right?
Yeah.
And it's great to be in the building and see your colleagues and be in the role in a different way. And I know, coming from your background in masonry and getting up at 5 in the morning and being in a more physical role versus, I would say when we were more remote, it was more of a traditional 9 to 5 for you. Now we're going into you get to see it a little bit more and see that it does not end at 5 and that we have a lot of responsibilities at night and in the weekend. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but it's great. So talk to me a little bit about so far, what's your favorite thing about this job?
My favorite thing about this job? I mean, I like the different committees that you're on. So definitely the IT and cybersecurity.
Yeah.
So learning about the blockchain, sort of learning about more or less what the coming age of technology is like and how that's going to affect both state, federal, and even very local level government and politics is interesting to me. And also kind of part of my finance background. Although I didn't really like that as a career path, blockchain ties into it in a lot of ways for investments, so that kind of connects too. So I like that. I would say probably the IT stuff the most.
Absolutely, and I think it's great again that I think a lot of people don't understand or realize that in my role, you're essentially my right hand. So if there's a caucus that I'm unable to attend because maybe I'm in person at an event in Revere, or if there's a commitment or a hearing that I'm in and there's something else going on, the legislative aide really does attend 95% of meetings on behalf of the legislator. There's really, essentially, aside from formal sessions and Democratic caucus, very few things that you can't attend on my behalf. And I think it's important to realize that we're a two-man team. So Chris and I are the only ones in the office. So if I'm not doing it and he's not doing it, it doesn't get done, right? So we spend a lot of time making sure that we pay attention to details and that every single task gets done, whether it means that we're, working a little bit later or starting a little bit earlier. But it's just the two of us. And I think that, someday when you move up the ranks, you get a bigger staff and we'll get some backup. But Chris has had the opportunity to manage some interns, which we've been lucky to have. So do you want to tell us a little bit about what that's been like?
Yeah, so we had a really bright young individual, Isabella. She was in I believe her junior year of college when she was interning with us.
UMass Boston, right?
Yeah, UMass Boston. She was a political science major, I believe, and I'm blanking on the minor, I think it was sociology or something along those lines. But she was definitely super into this field. She was a go-getter.
She was. She is.
Yeah, she is. She was a huge help. And I mean, like you said, sort of how I'm your right hand, she was my right hand for a lot of that process for the couple of months that she was interning with us. So it was a huge help with, like you said, so we're two-man office. So when there's 5 or 6 meetings at the same hour, I mean, it's really hard to attend all of them at the same time when you're only 2 people. So to have another helping hand to get on that, get the notes, sort of get the big talking points and any of the asks or really what the important information was relayed to us, that was huge. So.
And I'll say you and the interns did a great job at making sure that information was relayed to me. So if it was a meeting that I couldn't attend, Chris or the interns would always provide a full summary and say, here's a topic, here's what was discussed, here's what the ask was and what this organization is looking to accomplish. Here are some future dates of events they may be having or things that may be coming up. So it really is important, I think, in this role and what you do is communication is key. Yeah. So we're talking all day, we're talking every day about what's happening in Revere, in the State House. And I think what's interesting that I've learned in the last year is I really have 2 districts now. I have the city of Revere, town of Saugus, and city of Chelsea, but I also have Boston. And our responsibilities in the State House in terms of committees. Well, I think it's great, Chris. I think a lot of the things you studied in college and a lot of the skills you learned and built in your physical jobs really prepared you for this. And you've done such a great job in terms of working with constituents and talking to people one-on-one and building those relationships and connections, both in Revere and Saugus and Chelsea in our physical district, but also in Boston.
Thank you. Yeah, I think so too. Well, what about on your end? Do you feel like, I mean, anything from your schooling or even past positions, what do you think sort of prepared you for this?
I will say, coming from my background on the city council and becoming a freshman legislator, the first few months was like drinking out of a fire hose. You had so much information coming at you so quickly. And quite frankly, if I did not have the support I had in the early months from your predecessor, Ricky Serino, our city councilor, who helped me transition into the role and helped me bring you on and bring you up to speed right away, it would have been incredibly difficult. But I do think that my background in the city council has greatly prepared me for this role. It's a different body though, right? So the city council is a body of 11 people. And when I served as city council president, I presided over a body of 10. And you manage the needs and wants of the city and the different committees of the city council. So I think in a way I went from being a really big fish in a small pond to now I feel like I'm a minnow in the ocean, right? So I'm one in a body of 160 approximately. I don't know the number off the top of my head. So it's different, right? And you also went from being someone that has 10 years of experience in a role to the freshman or the first year. And that's been a challenge, but I've learned so much and I'm so happy the building's open. I think that, we'll both agree that now that we're in person and you get to meet some of your colleagues and I've got to meet some of my colleagues, it makes the job more enjoyable, right? Because
Definitely
I think
better,
anyone that gets into politics gets in it for the people. And as much as I love seeing and interacting with everyone in Revere, it's been such a joy to meet my colleagues in the city of Boston, and I think for you to meet some of your colleagues in the State House.
Oh yeah, and everybody that, from Western Mass and stuff, because it's really easy to get kind of nestled in our little world on, in Northeast, in the North Shore rather. But yeah, no, it's great to be experiencing all those different people, all the different viewpoints, stuff like that. So
I think it's funny too, we don't realize growing up in Revere and growing up in Saugus, we're very North Shore centric. When we meet friends in Worcester and say they're from Western Mass, they're very quick to tell us they're from Central Mass.
Everything else is Western Mass. So
right?
It's not around us.
It's so true.
But yeah, so, as you were saying with that, so really, what is your everyday, day-to-day like now that we're in the building?
So I think every day is different, right? And what we do kind of is go in the morning. We very much live day to day, because every single night when we log off the computer, when we sign in the next morning, new meetings come up, new priorities come up in the district. And something that you and I do, I would hope to say well, is that we can think on the ball and make changes as needed. So I think there are different tasks in our day. There are in-person meetings with constituents or virtual meetings with constituents. There are hearings for the committees that I'm on, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And there are advocacy groups that want time with the legislators to advocate for their bills and for their priorities. So as an office, it's our job to look through all of those different tasks and say, okay, well, there's only Jess and there's only Chris, and we only have one 10 o'clock slot. So if there are 5 requests for a 10 a.m. meeting, we have to figure out how to address that and what to do. But I enjoy, I think, the variety of events. How many industries are there that when you go into work every day, it's different? Like last week, we started our Monday on a tour with the Carpenters Union, and then Tuesday with the Electrical Workers Union, and then Wednesday we're at the State House meeting with different advocacy groups.
Even yesterday, too, to start the morning with an event, and then even later in the day, we had that, I'm blanking on the name of her, for that one advocacy group that she was coming by to thank us after the amendments were filed, and then dealing with constituent calls throughout the middle of the day. So,
and I think that's something important for people to realize. We don't have a 9-to-5 office, so if someone has an issue that happens in the middle of the night, we get the calls in the middle of the night. If someone has an issue that happens early in the morning or in the middle of the day, on the weekends, you know, life doesn't stop. And oftentimes the cases that we're dealing with are one of many cases to us, but in that person's eyes, it's the only thing that matters. And I take that really seriously, and I know you do as well. So we make sure that when those cases come in, they're addressed. And I guess this is a great opportunity to transition a little bit and talk about why do people call our office? So Chris is on the front lines and is the one that when calls come in from the receptionist, they often go through Chris and then get to me. So talk to us a little bit about what you get calls on and what type of services our office helps people with.
I mean, I've gotten calls about everything from potholes to eviction cases to unemployment to state and federal tax returns, people looking for affordable housing. I mean, so far I haven't really seen any real like categorization of anything. It's really anything that anybody has an issue with, they'll come to us, and you know, depending on whether it's state or federal, we help them the best way that we can.
And I think that's the point, right? We're kind of a bridge. So I think our office, we're a bridge between municipal issues and state issues. We're a bridge between state issues and federal issues. So a lot of what we do is kind of the middleman that is collecting the information from our constituents, hearing about what their needs are, getting an idea of what the situation is, and then figuring out who the appropriate agency is to handle the issue. So if it's unemployment, you know, you're doing one of our intake forms, you're collecting the information, it goes over to our liaison on unemployment. If it's a federal issue, we can reach out to the senator or the reps from Massachusetts that can take those federal issues in a way that we can't handle them. But I think people still come to us because we're more on the front lines where they have such a broader area to cover. Yeah,
I think it's easier to kind of access us. And if, you know what I mean, if somebody's from Revere, Saugus, or Chelsea, probably more acquainted with lower levels of government than the higher levels. And like you said, that just goes with having a bigger district. So, but yeah, I mean, that's huge. You know what I mean? Just getting the right people in touch with the right connections. So. And
I think it's important that people realize, you know, there are different calls, and oftentimes we all work together collaboratively. So if someone reaches out to our office for something that's more at the municipal level, we'll send it over to Revere 311 and put a ticket in, or get it over to the mayor's office or the DPW or a city councilor so they can handle it at the municipal level. Whereas our true role is to be the liaison between state agencies. So that's unemployment, that's the DOT, that's DCR, that's you know, basically any state agency that a person needs help navigating. We typically will have a liaison that can help us get our constituents the information that they need, whether it be as simple as a pothole on Revere Beach that the DCR needs to fill, or help with an unemployment claim where something went awry. We help kind of untangle all of these knots that we get every day.
Yeah, especially now. I mean, coming out of COVID, so many unemployment cases, so many pandemic unemployment cases. So, I mean, that's been huge. And then also dealing with the aspects, working with, when we worked with Senator Markey's office on so many people filing, fraudulent claims for unemployment. So.
And being able to help people that were victims of that and make sure that their cases were handled appropriately. And I think it's important that people know too that when these cases come into our office, they're all confidential. So when people reach out to us, it goes from me and Chris to the agency that directly needs to help them. And we take great pride in the privacy of reaching out to our office and knowing that your case is going to be handled with care as if it was my family or Chris's family. And I really will say in terms of that, I'm proud that our response times are what they are, that if an email comes in, it's not sitting there. Chris and I deal with it immediately. And I guess that's one of the blessings and the curse of working remote and the new technology that we have. I think in past years, the laptop or the secret reps didn't have laptops, first of all. Their desktop computers stayed at the State House, and when the day was over, if something came in, you wouldn't know until the next morning when you went into Boston. Now it's always with me, which is as wonderful as it is stressful. So now that I have, my State House laptop, if it's 9 o'clock at night and someone reaches out to me because they're a victim of domestic violence or they're going through something really difficult, I'm not going to let that wait until 8 o'clock the next morning. I deal with it when it comes in. And I think it is made our role very different.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, even like you said, even when I don't have my laptop on me, you still have your phone on you, which has internet and emails. So if you're out at dinner or whatever, I mean, I receive constituent calls and emails all the time. So, but like you said, I think it's a good thing because stuff that is super urgent shouldn't be waiting for the next morning. And it needs to be handled. There's been times when people have reached out, they need housing, the next day or for that weekend. So
I think it feels good when you can truly help someone. And I think we've had many instances where at the end of the day, there are so many jobs where you go to bed and you did your job and you feel good. But in this job, it's really unique because when you go to bed at night, you feel really good knowing that the things you're doing are tangible. The projects you're working on, you can see them. The people that you're helping, you can see the impact it has on their lives. And it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Well, I know we talked a little bit about the day-to-day of what comes into the office and what kind of cases we work on. But another part of my job, as you know, is the different committees and committee assignments I'm on. So let's talk a little bit about some of the, well, first of all, the difference between committees and caucuses and what we do.
Yeah.
So caucuses are often special areas that are like niche kind of projects or specialties. So for example, I'm a part of the aviation caucus, which many reps that have airports in or around their district are a part of. I'm a part of the PAWS caucus, which is for animal rights and supports bills that have to do with protecting our pets and our animals. We're also a part of the Beaches Commission, and that's another thing. There are caucuses, commissions, and committees, lots of different types of organizations. So aside from those caucuses, which are kind of small groups that have a very specific task in mind, and basically we'll tackle bills that involve that. So for example, the PAWS caucus, they're only getting bills relative to the treatment of animals, versus the aviation caucus is only going to get bills relative to airports, airplanes, and air traffic.
Yeah, I like the way that you described it before about like classes versus clubs. So with how you're assigned, your committees, you don't really get to pick them. You get assigned to them by the Speaker of the House. And then on top of that, and you only have 4 of those. So pretty much your core classes. And then the caucuses and, more like the clubs. You can go and join as many as you want, but it's kind of on you with how you can balance that. I
forgot about that. So when Chris first got hired, an analogy that I used to describe the difference between our House committees versus caucuses and versus commissions was school, right? Yeah. So my classes would be, which were assigned from the Speaker of the House. I'm on the Environmental Committee. I'm on the IT and Cybersecurity Committee. I'm on Economic Development and Election Laws. Where my caucuses are more groups and clubs that I get to pick and choose and say this is an area of interest that I have that I enjoy, and I find that you enjoy them too because we get to do some pretty cool stuff. If you see Facebook, they bring dogs into the State House often, which I always get excited when any of the organizations bring in the service dogs. So we get to do and see a lot of different things. It's also been different too. I attended my first in-person hearing.
Oh yeah, and Governor Baker. What did he do? He testified on the bond bill or whatever it was. I forget. I'm blanking.
That was for the Forward Act.
Yeah.
The Forward Act.
Was for the economic development hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. So all of our committee hearings up until this point were virtual. So I would sit on Teams and partake in these, and people would testify, similar to a city council hearing. So the same way that the city council has subcommittees, the legislature has subcommittees, and that's the opportunity for the public to come up and testify. So the same way in the city council and in the zoning subcommittee, the public can come and testify. In these committees that we're assigned to, the public can come up and talk about a bill. For example, if they filed a bill, Nero's Law is a great example, right? That was filed for the canine officer that was injured so that they can receive medical treatment when they're injured.
And to be transferred, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they were able to, in the committee, to have all of these people testify from all over the Commonwealth about how important it was to them. And I'll tell you, some of the more powerful conversations we have are in that testimony in committee, and you really hear some powerful stories about things that are impacting people. And for me, it's eye-opening because it's all over Massachusetts. It's not just this area.
No, it is huge, and I like hearing from normal everyday people instead of always having stuff from different interest groups and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, Nero's Law was huge.
It's different. Well, let's talk about some things that we've kind of worked on recently. I know the budget. We just got through my second budget and your first budget.
Yeah, that's true. The budget was huge. I mean, secured quite a bit for the city of Revere, which was really nice. And then I believe right now the Senate is almost done with theirs.
They're currently in session for their budget, yeah. So we were able to secure in amendments through our office over $1 million for state police troop A directed patrols, which was huge. We secured $50,000 for the Robert J. Hass Health and Wellness Center, which the city of Revere doesn't have a health and wellness center.
Yeah, that'll be huge.
That's going to be really exciting. And also $50,000 for a food systems hub, which I think, Chris, that we both saw the need and the issue of food insecurity in this district through the pandemic.
That's very true, yeah. I mean, that's definitely where it...
You can see the difference, right? I mean, I think as a community, we knew that it was there. I think that the pandemic highlighted a lot of issues, and I really think it brought to light how many families are living paycheck to paycheck and how having their business closed for 1 week could mean the difference of having a meal on the table or having that food insecurity. And I think that the creation of this food systems hub is going to be huge in terms of making sure that that gap is filled.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
Well, Chris, I'm really excited that you were able to join me on the show today to talk about kind of what happens inside of our office. I think that oftentimes people see our role in more forward-facing events, right? You go to a ribbon cutting, you see your state rep. You go to an event in the community, you see the state rep. But as in many jobs, I don't think people see what happens behind the scenes and how important having someone like you in our office is, and I'm really grateful for that. And I think it's also important for people to know that if they have a meeting with you, it's essentially as important as meeting with me, because you are an extension of me in this role, and you are truly the second part of this office.
Very true.
Yeah, and I think it's great for people to get to see and know a little bit more about you. So I'm so grateful that you took the time to join us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And I think the people of Revere and Saugus and Chelsea are lucky to have you, and I look forward.
I'm lucky to have them.
Yeah.
Very lucky.
You made a lot of friends, a lot of new friends in the State House and a lot of new friends in the district.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. And now I hope that if you see Chris in the district, you recognize his face, you know that he's with our office. It has been the honor of my life over the last year to represent the 16th Suffolk District, and I know Chris is excited to join me in this as he's just beginning his career in politics with me. So thank you for taking the time to tune in, and we will see you in Revere or on Beacon Hill.